April 25, 1986. The night shift at the Vladimir Ilyich Lenin Nuclear Power Plant, more famously known as Chernobyl, begins like any other. The vast complex hums with controlled power, a symbol of Soviet scientific achievement. Nestled nearby, the city of Pripyat sleeps, its nearly 50,000 residents unaware that their lives are about to be irrevocably altered. In the control room of Reactor No. 4, a team of engineers prepares for a routine safety test. The plan is simple: to see if the reactor's turbines can produce enough power to keep the coolant pumps running during a potential blackout, just until the backup diesel generators kick in. It's a test that had been attempted before and was deemed crucial for safety. The atmosphere is calm, perhaps a little tired, as the late hour drags on. No one in that room could possibly comprehend the catastrophic chain of events they were about to set in motion. This wasn't just another night shift. This was the beginning of the end for a city, and the start of a disaster that would send shockwaves across the entire globe. The clock ticks past midnight, into the early hours of April 26th. The test is about to begin. The experiment starts with a deliberate reduction of the reactor's power output, but a series of operational missteps and communication breakdowns cause the power to plummet far lower than intended, to a near shutdown state. This puts the reactor in an extremely unstable condition. To bring the power back up for the test, the operators make a fateful decision. They withdraw a critical number of the control rods, the very devices designed to slow down the nuclear reaction. It's like taking the brakes off a car that's already heading downhill. They disable several key safety systems, believing them to be an obstacle to the test. They are now operating outside of all established safety protocols. At 1:23 a.m., the test officially commences. The turbines are shut off, and as they begin to spool down, the flow of cooling water to the reactor core decreases. But instead of the expected, controlled reaction, something terrifying happens. Inside the core, a massive, uncontrollable power surge begins. Xenon 135, a byproduct of the fission process that had built up during the low-power operation, suddenly burns off, causing the reaction to skyrocket. Within seconds, the power level multiplies to over 100 times its intended output. Alarms shriek through the control room. Panic sets in. A button is pressed for an emergency shutdown. The SCRAM, which should have fully inserted all control rods and stopped the reaction cold. But due to a critical design flaw in the RBMK reactor, the graphite tips of the control rods momentarily displace water and actually increase the reaction's intensity before slowing it down. It's the final, fatal blow. At 1:23:44 a.m., colossal steam explosion rips through Reactor 4. The 2,000-ton steel lid, the biological shield, is blown clean off the reactor, landing back at an angle into the gaping maw of the core. The first responders, the plant's own firefighters, are on the scene within minutes. With no knowledge of the true danger, they see a fire on the roof and think it's a standard electrical fire. They climb towards the inferno, their boots sinking into the melted bitumen, completely unaware they are walking into a lethal cloud of radiation. Just seconds after the first blast, a second, more powerful explosion erupts. This one is a nuclear explosion of sorts, spewing the guts of the reactor graphite fuel and fission products high into the atmosphere. The reactor core is now completely exposed, burning at over 2,000 degrees Celsius and releasing a radioactive plume that glows with an eerie, beautiful, and deadly blue light. A column of smoke and radioactive isotopes begins to drift north, carrying with it a poison invisible to the naked eye. The very air has become a weapon. From the sky, the scene is apocalyptic. The heart of the reactor is a raging inferno, a nuclear volcano vomiting death into the night. An immediate, desperate effort begins to contain the uncontainable. The Soviet military is scrambled. Over the next 10 days, a fleet of helicopters makes thousands of perilous flights directly over the exposed, melting core. They drop over 5,000 tons of sand, clay, lead, and boron onto the burning reactor. A frantic attempt to smother the fire and absorb the deadly neutrons. Each flight is a suicide mission. The pilots and crews are exposed to staggering doses of radiation, but they fly on, battling an enemy they cannot see, touch, or feel. For the first 36 hours, the residents of Pripyat are left in the dark. Life goes on as normal. Children play outside, weddings take place. People go about their daily routines, all while breathing in lethally radioactive air. But the state's denial can only last so long. Geiger counters are screaming off the charts. People start feeling sick, with what they call a nuclear tan, a metallic taste in their mouths, and uncontrollable fits of vomiting. Finally, on the afternoon of April 27th, a radio announcement is made. A fleet of over 1,000 buses arrives, lining the streets of the pristine city. Residents are told it's a temporary evacuation for just 3 days. They are instructed to pack only essential documents and a small amount of food, to turn off their utilities, and to leave their pets behind. They leave their homes, their belongings, their entire lives, believing they will soon return. They never will. Pripyat becomes a ghost city overnight, frozen in time at the exact moment of its abandonment. Meanwhile, the radioactive cloud respects no borders. It drifts across Belarus, then into Scandinavia, On April 28, workers at a nuclear power plant in Sweden detect abnormally high levels of radiation on their shoes. They initially suspect a leak at their own facility, but soon realize the radiation is coming from outside. The world slowly begins to wake up to the fact that a major nuclear catastrophe has occurred somewhere in the Soviet Union. Under immense international pressure, the Kremlin finally admits to the accident, breaking its wall of silence. The true scale of the disaster begins to unfold on a global stage, sparking fear and outrage worldwide. In the immediate aftermath, the heroes known as the liquidators are summoned. A force of over 600,000 soldiers, miners, scientists and civilians are mobilized to clean up the disaster zone. They perform harrowing tasks, from hosing down radioactive streets to working on the roof of the destroyed reactor, clearing debris with shovels because the radiation is too intense for robots. These biorobots, as they were grimly called, were often limited to just 40 seconds of work before receiving a lifetime dose of radiation. To entomb the destroyed reactor and contain the remaining radioactive material, an immense structure is planned. In a heroic feat of engineering and sacrifice, miners dig a tunnel beneath a reactor to install a cooling system to prevent the molten core from melting through the concrete pad and contaminating the groundwater. Above ground, construction begins on the sarcophagus, a massive steel and concrete shell to cover Reactor 4. It's built in a record 206 days, a temporary shield against a threat that will last for millennia. The long-term consequences are staggering. The disaster released 400 times more radioactive material than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Vast areas of Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia are contaminated. The health effects are devastating, with a significant increase in cancer rates, particularly thyroid cancer in children, among the exposed populations. The environment suffers immensely, creating the Chernobyl exclusion zone, an area of over 1,000 square miles, uninhabitable for humans. Yet, in the absence of people, wildlife has paradoxically returned and flourished, creating a strange and radioactive Eden. Today, a new, more permanent structure called the New Safe Confinement arches over the decaying original sarcophagus, a monumental tombstone and a constant reminder of the day when a routine test went horribly wrong. The story of Chernobyl is not just a story of technological failure. It is a profound human story of hubris, of secrecy, of unimaginable sacrifice, and a stark warning about the terrifying power we have unlocked and the permanent responsibility that comes with it. Thank you for watching. If you found this history compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.